So, given how huge this trial was, given how eloquent you were, I know you don't think of it that way, but from a public perspective, you were like the star because of how
That's
well you did.
insane.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure Camille's the star.
Camille is also incredible. I've gotten a chance to interact with her. She's somebody that uh, really inspires me by how good she is at her job, how much she loves her job, and how much the fame, the money, whatever, has not affected the basic core integrity of who she is
Right.
as a human being. So she's also incredible. Okay, what's the takeaway for you personally from the trial? How has it made you a better person? How has it changed or solidified who you are as a psychologist, as a forensic psychologist, clinical psychologist, and so on?
Wow. I mean, a lot happened in my life around that trial, leading up to the trial, after the trial. Um, so let's tackle forensic psychologist first.
Sure.
Okay. So, in terms of forensic psychology, I am grateful to that trial for really strengthening my abilities. The stakes were so high that I was retained about 2 years prior to the trial. So, I really delved deep into the academic side of forensic psychology and making sure that I was adhering as closely as possible to standard practices, best practice recommendations for this specific type of an examination. It was intellectually awesome and challenging. I felt like my brain was on fire for a full year leading up to the trial, and that can be really, really fun. It was just challenging, but I am really proud of the work I did. I think the stakes were really high. It's serious work. It's important that it's done well and accurately, and I felt really good about it.
So, have some of those lessons carried through to your practice now, to both research and some of the things you're doing in terms of helping couples?
No, my practice hasn't changed that much.
Mhm.
This was more just something that was more, it demanded so much more of my time than my typical forensic work does. And personal injury cases, or in cases where there is an allegation of trauma or psychological harm, tend to be super labor intensive.
Yeah.
This, given the magnitude and how long it had been going on in the back and forth, required a ton of work before the trial as well. So it pulled me away from the practice. I think it's been nice to go back a bit. So now personally, I've learned some things. I've learned that I need to slow down a little bit.
So
I
this took a lot from you.
It took a lot, but it was really the culmination. I feel like there are these hoops we jump through again and again, academic challenges that we continue to meet, and then there's a next one and a next one and a next one. And in the beginning, like when you're getting into college or applying to grad schools, you don't really realize this is going to be a never ending thing,
Mhm.
especially if I continue with research or forensic work. I love it because it is so academic. You're writing these 75-page reports and with citations, and you have to be accurate. It feels like I'm doing giant board exams again and again and again. Um, it never ends, but that feeling, I think you and I were talking about how it's fun to doubt yourself because
Mhm.
it pushes you to do better work. But so if you keep having high stakes, you're going to work all the time, work yourself into the ground, constantly be thinking about, oh, this question, I'm not sure if I fully know the answer and all the research behind that, so I should go there. And again, super fun, but I don't just do forensic psychology all day. I also own a clinic. I provide therapy. I've been providing therapy for 15 years. So what happens is you have clients who maybe you've stopped seeing, but when they have a crisis in their lives, they reach out to you again, even if
Yeah.
it's 7 years later. So you've accumulated hundreds of clients who at any given time are going to reach out when they're in crisis, whether or not you're working on a federal case or in Virginia for this. And that is never going to be something easy to grapple with because I feel that I am letting somebody down. I know I am, because these are people I genuinely care about, and they care about me and they trust me. And I want to be able to be there for them. I know that it's disappointing if I can't be. And it's also very difficult to separate out the professional therapy relationship from loving someone who you've seen through some of the most difficult parts of their lives. And I can explain that to people all day long, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy for someone to accept when I can't talk to them and they just found out, their husband was leading a double life, or, their sister just died and I can't even get on a call because I'm getting maybe 15 messages like that a day, and have to testify and have to run my practice. So I think that was why I need to slow down. This case, I was doing all of that. And then like the academic load or the work involved was just tremendous. And some stuff happened. Like my dad, he started having his cognitive decline. I got a medical diagnosis that is stress-induced. I really thought I was getting away with it. I really believed that people who talk like a lot about self-care were kind of full of shit and just didn't know how to push themselves. I still believe in pushing ourselves, but I think I kind of traversed into an area without realizing it where I was no longer pushing myself to challenge myself or see what I was capable of. I was almost pushing myself like as a necessity because I didn't know what else to do anymore. Just an obligation. It wasn't even, I wasn't pushing myself to do. The Depp Heard case reminded me of that feeling of pushing myself to do something I wasn't sure I was capable of and overcoming that challenge. That was rewarding. But when you're piling that on with like running a business and all these other things and trying to be perfect at all of them, that just starts to become like a feeling of necessity, and it's not healthy.
That said, you somehow manage to hold it all together, to put forward a masterful performance, and like you said, still take care of all these clients because you're the most important person in their lives for many of them. Is there a secret to that? Is there any hacks? Is there
I don't sleep a lot. I don't get a no, and honestly, it's not 100. It's not how it's a work in progress, right? I don't have an answer for. I wouldn't want my life to be any other way. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to work on this case if I hadn't established my practice and had outreach. And so I can't figure out like which piece you take it out without it all crumbling.
Yeah.
But I would love to have a little more downtime.
So it all kind of works together, and there's passion is the fuel that's behind all of it. Probably that's probably the reason you haven't lost your mind quite yet.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Unless, it depends who you ask.
What about the stress of just being in the public eye? Has that been difficult for you?
That's a lovely question. Thank you for asking it, because it is nice to talk to you about this because I feel like you probably understand it a little bit. That was something I was absolutely unprepared for. Like I said, I had no idea how many people were watching when I testified. I had no idea. And I got off the stand. I kind of staggered to the back room and truly thought about lying down on the floor because I was so exhausted. And, I'd been up studying all my stuff, terrified that I was going to forget some statistic about the MMPI-2.
It's going to be so great. It's great for me. It's going to be great for people to hear this, that you're human. You're two flaws. That's extremely stressful for many, many hours. I wondered how you can sit there for so many hours and stay so focused and listen so well. It's so difficult.
Well, I could talk about that too. The moment I came to, almost like came back to my body and realized where I was and just wanted it to stop and felt like I was burning alive. I just was thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Is this going to stop? And then another question came and I just had to get back to it. Yeah. So after I testified, the first time I went in that back room, I might have laid down on the ground. It's kind of a blur. I might have. I do remember that Wayne Dennison, one of the senior managing partners at Brown Rudnick, who is a phenomenal guy and absolutely brilliant. I will be indebted to him for life because I trusted him. And that made all the difference in probably how I testified. But he came in the back and he was looking at his phone and he said, "You're on the cover of time, something on, like
Yeah.
Apple News. And I thought, I thought he was messing with me. I thought it was his joke way of saying, like, I did great.